This first task is a simple exercise to get you used to using the basic drawing tools and the modify commands in AutoCAD. It's quite a simple 2D stage flat, which you are probably used to actually. You might have drawn this in your technical drawing class previously. It's basically black lines that represent a stage flat in elevation with dimensions around the edge in red. So I'm going to take you through this step by step so that you can see how this might be produced. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up AutoCAD 2017, and once that's launched you will see that we have a start screen presented to us, and that start screen, there it is a place where we can open recent documents that we might have created, and we can open up or start a brand new drawing by pressing on this large button here. That's absolutely fine to do that, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to start a drawing from a template to show you how you might do that. And all you do is you click on this bottom drop down menu that says templates, and AutoCAD has a list of predefined templates built in that you can start from, and the one that you will always need is AutoCAD ISO.dwt, and you can see that that is actually an international drawing template that uses metric for its measurements as opposed to imperial as they use in the US. Click on there and we get a new drawing. You can see that it's drawing1.dwg, and that's opened up in this tab here. And this is predefined as AutoCAD thinks I may want to start using this template for a drawing. But there's a few things that we're going to change before we actually start our drawing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the status menu and I'm just going to switch off the grid. I don't need that for this particular drawing. And I'm going to go across and make sure that polar tracking is on, which it is. I'm going to make sure that object snap tracking is on and object snap is on. Object snap, I want to make sure we've got midpoint selected and endpoint. And with the tracking settings, I want to make sure that we're set to snap to 45 degrees. This is like a built-in protractor that we have. And the last thing I'm going to do is come up to the red application button, and I'm going to set the drawing utilities units to being in precision 0 in millimeters. I don't care for this drawing about points of a millimeter, we're just concerned about full millimeters. Once that's done, I can click OK and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go up to the line tool and click on the line and draw straight down, and you can see that I have a green dotted line, which means that I'm going straight to the page, and at this point I'm going to type in 6,000, and that means that I have a line that's 6,000 millimeters long. I'm going to go out to the right, make sure I've got my green dotted line, which means I'm straight, and type in 2,000. Come up to the top. Now at this point I can just hover over that first corner and I get a green square, which means that it's snapped to that point. I haven't clicked anything yet, just hovered over it, and if I pull to the right I get a green dotted line, which means that everything is straight, and once I get both lines I know that that is perpendicular, and I can just then come over and do a fourth click over here, and I can press escape or spacebar to finish drawing that line. And that is the outside of my stage flat complete. Now we can see from the original drawing that the timbers are 100 millimeters wide, and we can see that that's indicated in a couple of places. So I know that I have to offset this line by 100 mil. So I'm going to go up to the offset tool, and you can see that is the cloud within a cloud symbol, and at this point it might say specify offset distance through. Well, at this point we can actually type in a distance of 100, press enter, and that then allows us to click on the line and move our cursor to one side or the other of that original line to draw an offset. So I want these to be on the inside, so I'm going to move my cursor to the right and click. I'm just going to go around all four sides and do that, and you can see that we have our four timbers drawn there. Again, press escape or spacebar to finish that command, and the last thing that I need to do for these little bits is to just trim out these timbers so that they actually represent the timbers as they are drawn here. So we're going to go up to the trim tool, and remember, first click is left, second click anywhere on the page right, and then we can just trim these out by using left click. Brilliant. Okay, so the next thing we need is this cross brace. So there's a few ways of drawing this, and that's really down to how you want to draw, but the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to go to the line tool, and I'm going to just hover over the corner there and make sure I get the green square. Pull down, making sure that I've got a green dotted line, and basically AutoCAD is now measuring from that green square, and if I type in 3000, it will start to draw 3000 down from that square, which means that I know that it's exactly in the middle of my stage flat, which was 6000. Pull along, make sure I've got everything straight, and click, and press spacebar or escape to finish. Okay, so now I can just trim that little bit out there, and I can offset this by 50 top and bottom, which means that I'll end up with a stage brace which is 100, which is what we will need. Select the middle line and delete, and there we have our mid brace, which is, I know now, is exactly in the centre there. Okay, so the next thing we need to concern ourselves with drawing are these corner braces, and that you can see here is actually 500 millimeters down from the inside to the bottom of that brace. So that's how I'm going to draw it. I'm going to get my line tool, I'm going to again hover over the corner, making sure I've got the green square, pull straight down, type in 500, and I now know that I'm drawing 500 away from that corner, and if I move my cursor around, it will snap to 45 degrees, and that's because we set 45 degrees in the track settings. And once that's all lined up, I just move along until I get the green cross, and that's where that intersection is, and I can click and spacebar to finish. And now it's just a case of offsetting that again by 100 down to make sure that I've got 100 millimeters between there. I could fall into the trap of measuring down 100 millimeters here, but I'll just show you what that looks like. It actually won't give you 100 millimeters across the timber. It's measuring down, which means that it'll be less. So that is of no use. So that's why I'm using offset, because it gives me a true 100 millimeters timber. Okay, so then I can just come to the extend command, right click, and just extend that out, and press escape, and there's my corner brace. Normal rule in AutoCAD, once you've drawn it once, don't draw it again. I'm going to select both of those lines, I'm going to use the mirror tool, and I'm going to hover across until I find the green triangle, which means that I'm in the centre of that line. Click, draw a line of symmetry, and click again. And it says, do I want to erase the original? No, I don't. Click on no, or press enter, and we will have two sets. Select both of those, and one more mirror from the centre this time that way. Let me just zoom out so you can see what's happening there. You see those rotating around? And once I've got that green dotted line, I know that I'm straight, and I can click, and there are my four braces. And that is our stage flat complete. Okay, lastly then we just need to put on these dimensions. So these dimensions are actually set out using a dimension style manager. And I'm not going to go into that too deeply in this task because we're going to cover that in a later tutorial. So for now I'm just going to use the settings that have been defined in the sheet, and I'm just going to show you how to set that up then. So we're going to go to the annotation drop down button, and we're just going to click on this little square here that's got like a dimension line with a paintbrush on it, and that allows us to set up some dimensions. We're going to use the ISO 25 setting for simplicity because it becomes available once we load in that template. So we're going to click on modify, and we can see that we've got a load of tabs along the top, and we can change all of these settings. Now I know that it looks a bit confusing, but don't worry too much because we're going to go through these in a little bit more detail in a later tutorial. For now, all I'm going to do, I'm going to set the offset from origin from 0.63 to 100. I'm going to click on symbols and arrows, and I'm going to set the arrow size from 2.5mm to 100. You see, AutoCAD thinks that you're going to be drawing quite a large drawing, but in this particular example we're only drawing something 6 meters high, and so we're just going to set the arrow size to be slightly larger. Okay, the next thing then is text, and we're going to set the text height to be in 100 also, and then we're going to set the primary units, we're going to set that to precision 0, and we're not going to see this, but I like to set the decimal separator to a period, which we use in the UK, and I feel like there's one thing else that we should be doing. Oh yeah, offset from dim line, that needs to be 50. Click OK, click set current, so that's the one that it's going to be using, and click close. And then we can just use this dimension button to pick up a dimension and draw it on. Now we can draw this on in two ways. We can click on the one end and click on the other, and then do a third click up, or we can click on the dimension and actually hover over the lines, and you can see that it automatically puts those in. So we're just going to hover over this end line, and you can see that that is now going in like that. Do one more, and this is going to be 300, so we're just going to draw down to the midpoint, draw in there, and we can draw in one there, that's going to be 500. Another one over here that's going to be 100, and I believe there was one over here which was 100, and then we have an angle, and we can get that tool by going down to the angular button, and that allows us to put in angles instead of linear measurements like this. And that is it. Now in order to make it like the example, I'm just going to change these to being red. Now if we were, and you'll see this in later tutorials, using layers, we could do that on a layer basis, but actually I'm going to do that on a individual basis by selecting one of the dimensions, right clicking, and going to select similar, which means that it's now selecting everything that's a dimension on this layer, and select him as well, and just going down to the layer color property and changing that to red. Press escape to deselect. And that's pretty much it. Now you can see that I'm not happy with the way that this is quite close to the next line, and I can change all of this after the event, after it's been produced, by just selecting it and using these blue squares and moving that around. That should be there, that looks nicer. And I can see that I'm missing, because I clicked over here, I'm missing my gap that I quite like between the actual object and the dimension line. And again, we can change this by selecting and just clicking and dragging these points around. And now you can see that we have this gap. And there we have it. Now I'm going to do him as well. So this one's a bit more tricky. There we go. And we're going to save this drawing because you're going to need this drawing for a later task when we start to look at 3D. And we're going to actually use this as a template to draw a 3D stage flat. So we're just going to go to the red A, we're going to go save, we're going to make sure it's saving it as a DWG file, and I'm just going to go to my AutoCAD tasks folder. I'm going to call this stage flat. And that's now saved, and we can see at the top there that is saved into My Documents, AutoCAD Tasks, Stage Flat. And that is the first task complete.